You're slacking off on the cleaning lately, huh? I can see dust gathering in the corners. Remember, you're at home all day, so do it properly. If I spot dust again, I'm selling your laptop. My husband John's been distant since I got busier with my cartoonist work. When I'm swamped with deadlines, he nags about house chores and even makes me redo them. He expects perfect cleaning since I'm home, but cartooning is my passion. I won't give up. Plus, John's hiding something, and I'm done forgetting him. I'm Ann, 31, and I freelance as a cartoonist. I draw essay-style cartoons and squeeze in work between household chores. When John and I, who's 35, got married 6 years ago, we agreed I'd be a full-time homemaker. 2 years into marriage, I lost both my parents and we moved into my inherited house, as I'm their only child. I didn't want to give up my passion for drawing cartoons, something I've been doing since my student days. I begged John, explaining that while I'm okay with being a housewife, my true dream is to earn a living through my cartoons. Right now, I'm only publishing independent comics, but could I please work from home? He seemed to think it was just a hobby but reluctantly agreed, so I kept drawing after we got married. About 6 months ago, a magazine editor spotted one of my cartoons on my website, and I landed a 2-page, 4-panel cartoon gig in their monthly magazine. Since then, more offers for cartooning and illustrating have come my way, keeping me busy. But when I excitedly shared this with John, his reaction was openly disgusted. "You're getting too caught up in this, aren't you? Your main role is supposed to be as a housewife, and your cartoons are just a side thing, right? I bet you're not making much, like pocket money." Why would you say that? I know you're not into cartoons, John, but being a cartoonist has always been my dream. It might be a small gig, but I'm getting paid, so I consider myself a professional. Please don't belittle it. But when I stood up for myself, John got even more upset. "You're dependent on me, and you dare to talk back. If you're unhappy, start earning more than me." I was stunned. I typically bring in about $600 a month, but I limit my workload because of him. And then there's John, always nitpicking about the housework, like, "You've been slacking on cleaning, huh? I see dust gathering. You're at home all day, so get it together. If I see dust again, I'm selling your laptop." It's like a threat, even though I know he's not serious. But it still scares me, and I end up spending time cleaning instead of meeting deadlines. When I'm busy, he gets even more annoying, pointing out every little thing that needs to be done around the house. Then came the breaking point. John always has dinner right when he gets home from work. That day was no different. He sat down, took a bite of the stew, and exploded. "What's this? The carrot isn't cooked properly. Are you trying to mess with me? I come home exhausted, and this is what you serve your husband." I had been lost in my thoughts after meeting a deadline when John's sudden outburst snapped me back to reality. I turned to him just as he grabbed the glass of beer in front of him and splashed it over me. I was shocked. I never imagined I'd have beer thrown at me. The surprise hit me hard because I never saw it coming. I'm sorry. I must have been distracted while cooking. The rest of the meal should be fine, so you can just ignore the carrot. Midway through cooking, I realized I forgot to add the carrots. In my rush, I tossed them into the stew without parboiling them. Even though I had made sure the potatoes were cooked, I completely overlooked the carrots. It was unlike me to make such mistakes, and I felt awful. It seemed John couldn't forgive this slip-up as easily as I had hoped. It's frustrating to have a wife who can't even handle basic household tasks. "Maybe I shouldn't have married you," John muttered as he stood up and walked out of the dining room. I hurried after him as he headed towards the bedroom. "Where are you going?" "I need some space until you realize what you've done." "What?" I stood there stunned as John packed his things into a travel bag and walked out. I tried to follow him, but he hailed a taxi at the nearest station and disappeared. Despite my repeated calls and texts, he didn't respond or read my apologies. Overwhelmed, I collapsed and broke into tears. It was then that I felt a tap on my shoulder. Turning around, I saw Mr. Tom, John's boss. We used to work together before John and I got married, with Mr. Tom being my boss who had mentored me when I first joined the company. "Mr. Tom, you smell like alcohol. Were you drinking while cooking?" I joked, trying to lighten the mood. "Hello. I hate to admit it, but I had a disagreement with John," he replied somberly. "That guy can be a bit arrogant sometimes. It's manageable when it's just work-related, but I can only imagine how frustrating it must be living with him." I vented, feeling relieved to share my feelings. Mr. Tom nodded in understanding, flashing his trademark bright smile. That smile had always been a source of comfort to me during tough times at work. We decided to grab a bite at a nearby diner and catch up. "So what's got you so upset?" he asked kindly. "Well, it's my fault. I messed up the cooking today. Tried making a stew, but the carrots weren't cooked well, and it upset John." "Ah, happens to the best of us. My wife does the same sometimes. When it does, we just roll with it. Getting worked up doesn't help, you know." I appreciated that perspective. A smile crept onto my face as we chatted. "So, no argument over drinks then?" "No, the beer smell? That's from John splashing it on me because of the cooking mishap. I thought I'd dried off at the station, but clearly not," I chuckled. "I've had that happen. Even if someone says you smell of alcohol, it's hard to be sure," Mr. Tom chuckled back. "What? He splashed beer on you over a small cooking mistake? That doesn't sound like John at all. I never liked the guy, but I never thought he'd do that to his wife." Mr. Tom's voice dripped with genuine indignation, oddly lifting my spirits. "Why did you come to the station? You look like you ran here in your apron." "Another issue with John?" I asked. "Yeah, John got strange, called me lazy, and stormed out, saying he wouldn't return until I reflected on my actions. I followed him here, but he took a cab and left. I'm lost," I explained. Mr. Tom's angry expression softened. "I can't say for sure now, but I have a bad feeling. I'll look into John. You might want to check the house for anything he left behind," he advised before we parted ways for the day. Following his suggestion, I searched John's usual spots and found a hotel points card in his pants pocket. It had been recently used on a Saturday, a day he claimed to be working. Suspicion grew as I recalled something forgotten: the GPS locator app we installed before marriage. I checked it and found John in an unexpected place, a popular tourist spot known for romantic dates. Convinced he was with someone else, I called Mr. Tom the next day. "Mr. Tom, thank you for yesterday." "No problem. Is everything all right? Did John not show up for work today?" Mr. Tom remained silent for a moment before exhaling heavily. "Yes, he's on paid leave for the next 4 days. I suspected as much. I hate to say it, but he's probably—" "I understand. This helps clear things up. Thank you," I replied. After ending the call, I made a decision and left the house. I had been contemplating my next move. If John ever betrayed me, this is what I would do. Once my task was complete, I dialed another number. "Hey, it's been a while," I greeted. The person on the other end responded cheerfully, but as soon as I brought up John, they sided with me. I hung up feeling reassured, believing things would soon take a positive turn. The following day, accompanied by a few individuals, I headed to the location pinpointed by John's smartphone GPS. It led us to a resort hotel near a renowned tourist spot. Currently, he appeared to be outside the hotel, with the GPS indicating he was near the beach. John's face drained of color the moment he laid eyes on me. Seizing the opportunity, I quickly aimed my phone at him and snapped multiple pictures, capturing him alongside a young woman in her early 20s. I had been discreetly photographing them for the past half hour, while John applied suntan oil to the woman, who was clad in a bikini. I allowed them to swim, patiently waiting to gather irrefutable evidence of John's infidelity. Their carefree demeanor or their blatant display of affection didn't shock me. Rather, I felt a sense of relief that they were providing solid proof. What truly rattled John, besides seeing me, was the presence of my in-laws behind me, both regarding him with stern expressions. "What's happening here, John?" I approached with a forced smile, causing John to stumble backward in the sand and land on his rear. My mother-in-law let out a disappointed sigh. How disgraceful, even for my own son. And who is this woman you've abandoned your wife for? She's useless at home, John blurted out, hastily pointing at me and shifting blame. Is it fair to say she does absolutely nothing? Even if she occasionally skips cleaning, she handles laundry, cooking, and dishes every day, doesn't she? Even I sometimes skip cleaning, and I detest laundry so much I leave it to your father at times. That's because you had a part-time job, right? But it's different with Anne. She's a stay-at-home wife who spends her time drawing and playing. My mother-in-law interjected, her tone firm. John's words fueled my father-in-law's anger. You're completely clueless, he exclaimed, drawing the attention of those around us. Some even seemed ready to capture the scene with their smartphone cameras. Why don't we continue this discussion in a more appropriate setting? I suggested, and everyone agreed. My in-laws and I headed to a nearby restaurant where John and the woman he was cheating with changed from their swimsuits into casual clothes and joined us. Once seated, we listened to John's explanation. I wanted Anne to be a stay-at-home wife, but she picked up this useless hobby of drawing cartoons and neglected her housework. When she refuses to obey me, it's only natural for me to seek a replacement wife, John declared. Mary was quick to respond. Wait, that's different from what you told me. You said you were troubled because of a stalker at your house, and you wanted to escape that reality for a while. I suggested going to the police, but you assured me the stalker would be caught soon. I wouldn't have gone out with you if I knew you had a wife, Mary sobbed, her distress evident. It turned out she was a college student who had met John on a dating app. Attracted to an older man, she agreed to date him, only to realize she had been deceived. I'm really sorry. I won't contact John again. Consider this a lesson learned, and I'll be more careful next time. Mary apologized, bowing deeply to me and my in-laws before showing us the screen where she deleted John's number. Leaving some money for her coffee on the table, she hurriedly left. I shot a glare at John, who looked stunned by Mary's departure. It's only natural that I have my own feelings and circumstances. I'm not some robot you can manipulate. Cheating just because things aren't going well is despicable, I admonished. Before John could respond, my father-in-law interjected, his tone firm. You still seem too content, John. But who's the one working and providing for Anne? You should respect me as the breadwinner. John trembled with anger, but my father-in-law addressed him calmly. You're acting like a child. Just because things aren't going your way, you're throwing tantrums like a toddler. Learn to accept reality. There's nothing more to say. With that, my in-laws stood up, settled the bill, and made their way to the register. Left alone with John, I found myself at a loss for words. John, I've been offered a serial comic strip in a magazine, I announced. John's demeanor shifted completely, and he looked at me with surprise. Oh, congratulations. Because of this opportunity, I can no longer be the stay-at-home wife you want. I'm sorry, but I'm tired of being with you, John. I want a divorce. I'm sorry. It's all my fault. You can pursue your comics, and I'll help with the housework. I won't be arrogant anymore, John pleaded, tears welling in his eyes. But I couldn't bear to look at him any longer. I'm sorry, but that's not the issue anymore. You looked down on me, didn't you? I believed marriage was about equality, but you saw yourself as superior because you were the provider, didn't you? Maybe I did, but I changed. I promise I won't make you suffer anymore. Please don't talk about breaking up, John begged. I've made the decision to sell the house we lived in. I have a relative who works in real estate, and they've agreed to buy it from me. There's still some paperwork and arrangements to finalize, so it won't happen immediately, but it'll be at a lower price than if we went through a broker. It's my house, and I have the right to do as I please with it, don't I? I want to end our relationship as soon as possible. I'm planning to leave tomorrow, and you should find somewhere else to stay as well. With that, I rose from my seat and headed for the exit. Unlike the day John left, he was now desperately chasing after me. However, when I got into the car, my father-in-law, who was behind the wheel, swiftly drove off. As I slammed the door shut, I saw John running after us, tears streaming down his face, but soon he disappeared from view. Afterward, It seemed John didn't believe what I had done. Upon his return from his trip and discovering the house empty of my belongings, he called me, his voice filled with anguish. I reluctantly answered the phone. "Why did you sell the house? It was our home, wasn't it?" "Why are you saying such things? It's the house I inherited from my parents, remember? But I should have some rights to it too, shouldn't I? In fact, there are no automatic inheritance rights for spouses when it comes to property. If you understand, please leave the house as soon as possible. Expect a call from the lawyer regarding alimony and divorce. Don't try to avoid it, okay?" I stated firmly before ending the call. Later, it seemed that John faced criticism from Mr. Tom for taking paid leave to go on a trip with his mistress. While there was no requirement to disclose the reason for taking time off, he was interrogated for betraying his wife. John faced difficulties at work, feeling ostracized by his colleagues and uncomfortable every day. Additionally, his in-laws had cut ties with him. John attempted to return to his in-laws' house, but they turned him away. After paying alimony, John depleted his savings and began accumulating debt. He now resides alone in a modest apartment, struggling to manage household tasks and leading a chaotic life. I later learned these details from Mr. Tom, but I felt no sympathy. Meanwhile, I settled into a tidy studio apartment and focused on creating drafts for my serialized comic strip. It's an anthology-style comic, drawing inspiration from various people's experiences. The next story I plan to illustrate revolves around marital infidelity, and I'm contemplating using John's situation as material.